What is up, Scrub fam? I am here with the Super Weekend Recap. We had a lot of events happen this weekend. We had Atlantic City Day 1 and Day 2, and then we had the Core TCG event all transpire as well. I'm going to be going over essentially the data from this weekend that we could pull and use as we go forward to kind of look at the metagame and how we read the game, metagame, and then additionally, I'm going to talk about basically tuning one of the decks and then just a brew that I came up with the help of course, the lovely Pat's Discord. But in general, Atlantic City, I had an amazing time. Got in Friday and spent time with Pat, O'Neill, Jose Mercado, who I was staying with, and Jordan Silver came and hang out as well. We went and had amazing Mexican food down in Atlantic City at like a place that was super authentic. It was awesome. And then we did a lot of play testing on Friday. And essentially before the event started, up until then, that night I was settled on either playing Blue-Yellow Hirudegarn, because I was going to be playing the Hercule deck, but Jordan Silver, after played Pat, decided that he wanted to play that deck and he needed the cards, so I went ahead and gave Jordan Silver my copy of the deck, so he was on that for Saturday. And then so I was kind of stuck between either Blue-Yellow Hirudegarn or Droids or Hirudegarn GT, which Hirudegarn GT is actually really sweet. But in general, so I decided to play Blue-Yellow Hirudegarn, and then Saturday when I got there, I was approached by Scotch, and he asked me to commentate, which I snap called and said, yes, I will commentate, because playing in the format, knowing, with the knowledge that I had of how powerful Hercule was, I knew that playing any of the decks that I played would have kind of a rough day. And so, since I wasn't going to be able to play the Hercule deck, I figured it was best to just commentate, and plus I wanted to just commentate anyway because I really enjoy it, and I haven't done it yet for this game, so that's how the day turned out. In general, Pat O'Neill was able to get his invite. Jordan Silver got his invite. Jose Mercado had a great finish on Saturday and ended up winning on Sunday. Good friend Eric Malone got his invite. A lot of people got their invites this weekend that I was super excited to see. Dylan Ashcraft, who I built a really good relationship with over time. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then we got to go out to dinner Saturday night as a group with the Hill Twins, Danny Wynn, Joey Palladino, Eric Goodwin, just so many people. And it was awesome to hang out with all of them, including, Scotch was there as well. Him and his school picture day looking self. It was pretty fun. But in general, we had an amazing time on Saturday, and then I drove back Sunday, and then I am here. So let's go ahead and get started into the data. Before I get started, let me go shout out to my sponsor, Beard Collectibles. Alec Pastrana is the best shop owner on the planet. If you're looking to get yourself buy a product, what you need to do, make sure you order from beardcollectibles.com. Give you the best prices on your sealed product as well as your cases if you're looking to get all the products. So let's go. Let's start off with the Core TCG event. First off, shout out to Intricate Gaming and Brian Samuel for taking home first place, the winner's trophy that day. And this is the data that we kind of have to take from it. So pretty funny, funnily enough, Brian Samuel was on U7 Frieza, was the only U7 Frieza deck in the top deck lists that were posted. I mean, in the winners metagame lists that were posted. So that was actually pretty funny. You look at Hercule. Hercule only took up 7 decks, like basically 7 of the slots in the winners metagame, and then across that, it was pretty much all evenly spread out. There was a lot of 1s, a lot of 2s, a few 3s, and the second highest performing deck was Hero Storm, which is, pretty easily to predict there. So as you can see here, the Core TCG event had a pretty diverse metagame. Mostly just like, you're starting to see the rise of Hercule over the Core TCG event. It was much different on the East Coast. The East Coast, I think it was even more representative, which I'll go over here in a second. But in general, as you can see, Core TCG, very, very diverse, which is awesome. And that's usually what you're going to expect from the West Coast. The West Coast has a lot of really strong players, and they all have experience playing different decks. They latch on the decks that they really like and then to continue to play them, such as like things like Announcer, Pan, Hero Veggies. Like Hero Veggies, Core TCG was the only event that actually had Hero Veggies in the top, the metagame decks, so that's awesome to see. Hero Blue Red was underrepresented compared to the other events. Like in general, there's a lot of pushing and pulling with these events, especially when you look at Atlantic City versus Core TCG. But it really just shows you that if you show up with one of the key strategies that we talk about, you're going to be able to do really well. So for instance, you see U7 Frieza, you see Droids, you see Chain Xeno decks, you see Storm decks, you see Hercule, you see Announcer, you see Veggie strategies, like basically anything that you can take to a tournament that's good, you're going to be able to find success with. Also, Soul Striker Mono Blue, again, had another good performance at the Core TCG event with 2 making it to the winners metagame. But in general, as you can see, deck diversity is there. There's tons of things that are playable in this format. There's a lot of strategies that are really good as long as you kind of follow the basic rules of the format or what the format presents. So this was the Core TCG event breakdown. The next one we have Atlantic City Day 1. So day 1, As you can see, not so diverse. They were the top 20 decks that were posted. 9 of them were Hercule. And so Hercule didn't win today, and I know a lot of people are going to kind of look at that fact, and when you look at coverage, right? So when I was doing commentating, Herudegarn Storm, piloted by Chris Sock, played against U7 Frieza in the final round of the tournament. But regardless of that, the deck that you saw the most on camera was Hercule. So regardless of the results, regardless of what came in first and second, the fact that Hercule took up 9 of the top 20 spots was very telling. And another thing that happened was essentially just the way that this tournament was kind of like shaped around the fact that Hercule was a deck that was kept kind of secret. And yeah, there was people on the West Coast that knew about it, but the information was really tight on the East Coast, except for the fact that when it got leaked out, especially the list that ended up doing the best across the course of the weekend, once those got leaked out, a lot of people brought that deck to the tournament, so that's why you kind of saw this spike in Atlantic City. So you had 9 on day 1 and then even more on day 2, which I'm about to show you. And what was also interesting to see was how the data basically transferred over to day 2 was once people saw the optimal list, they then tuned their own list, and then ended up looking a lot closer to the list that did well on Saturday, day 1, which was pretty cool to see. But as you can see, the major strategies are represented. Like you have Hercule, you have Hero Storm, U7 Frieza, Herudegarn Blue Red, which is a Chain Zeno strategy. You have Soul Striker Blue, Blue, very similar to Soul Striker Blue, except you get to play the World Tournament cards, which I think is just better. Having access to Awkward Situation Trunks and having access to Test of Strength Gokoob is honestly the best way to approach, because like you get to do the most for your energy, whereas like Soul Striker can do decent, but is really only playing one thing per turn until it gets to like turn 5, 6, and 7, whereas Blue gets to do that earlier in the game, which feels much better, and your removal's better. And then of course we had 1 Pan and then 1 Droids. So now we shift over to day 2. Day 2 they gave us the top 22 deck list, which I'm not sure why, but essentially 13 Hercule decks, right? Hercule took up the top 3 to 4 slots. It skipped a beat and then it kept going. There was 2 U7 Frieza, 2 Hero Storm, 2 Blue Red Herudegarn, 1 Droids, 1 Announcer, 1 Blue. So as you can see, once the information from day 1 was obtained, people that came to day 2 were prepared and they all jumped on to the new hotness and jumped onto the strategies that did well the previous day in day 1, right? So this is the data that we end up getting from Atlantic City A2. Hercule, of course, becomes an even bigger force in the metagame, especially after you look at the results of Core, you hear about what does well, you see what happens in Atlantic City Day 1, and you try and duplicate that. And then, of course, people were just really excited about the new deck, which was Hercule. So this weekend overall, when we look at the totals, these are the totals. There were 70 deck lists, right, that were shown. 30 of the decks were Hercule. Again, this isn't to say that Hercule is the best deck in the format. I think it was the best deck for the weekend, and I think the deck is so good because the fact that it allows a player to play a more defensive game, and it feels like a control deck, right? It feels like a deck that is constantly countering and just making sure it doesn't take damage, making sure it lives, and then it just plays a really, really potent late game threat. It has removal across all phases of the game, different types of removal, ways to interact with the opponent. That's really cool. And then the deck is really flexible when it comes to, of course, the main deck and sideboard slot, so it has the ability to battle a lot of different strategies. So a lot of people are going to be drawn to this deck as we move forward, but that doesn't mean that everything else is dismissed. Herudegarn Storm was second with 9 different copies. You had Droids, you had U7 Frieza, you had Pan, you had Blue Red Herudegarn, you had Hero Veggies, Announcer, Soul Striker Blue, and then you had Blue. All these decks are playable within the format. It's just a matter of attacking the metagame in the right way as we move forward. And right now, Hercule is just that. It's just that deck that you kind of have to build your decks around. And Hero Storm, it shows that even in the face of Hercule, it can still overperform. But I do think that those decks have to change as we move forward. I do think you need to start seeing main deck 1 to 2 copies of Bad Ring. I've already been doing 1, but I think main decking 2 copies of Bad Ring Laser and then having something like At All Cost Vegeta in the main deck to be able to help close the game faster is going to be something that you need to have happen. Because as of right now, the way Hercule is working is he can kind of just run rampant on a format that really revolves around attacking. And I know people talk about, well, does the deck lose to Droids? Does the deck lose to Chain Zeno? It loses to 2 Cell Chains. It loses to 2 Chain Zenos. A lot of people don't realize that, though. You saw that. That was very evident on the camera. People didn't know how to play against this deck. And this is the same thing we saw with the introduction of Blue-Yellow Herudegarn. when that deck came and it spiked and you saw high performance at a couple events, people learned how to play against the deck, and then it changed the format as we moved forward, and then we got to a more revolving door format. And by the way, you should check out Richard Zapp's latest article on the Kitchen Table Meta blog about formats and metagaming. It was an awesome read. You should start reading it. He's doing a 2-part article. Check it out. But overall, and taking the ideas from that format and applying them to this one, you have to remember that. So as you learn to play against Hercule and you learn what the weaknesses are, you're going to be able to try and exploit those moving forward. And honestly, the weaknesses that Hercule has is he has to be attacked, and it's best to attack him early with critical. If you can do that and pressure him with critical, then he's not able to take that life, and if he's not able to combo over, they're just forced to just take the damage and they don't gain any card advantage off of it. And so what they're going to have to do is they're going to start using the one drops unnecessarily in order to be able to combo to draw extra cards. If you're not attacking them, they're going to have to start attacking you, which is never the spot they want to be in because they end up losing a lot of value off of that. But in general, there's a lot of ways to play around Hercule and play against Hercule, but ultimately you have to understand that this is a deck that can go to time, and so you need to make sure that your strategies have a way to close the game. And Hercule is very weak to U7 Frieza, so I suspect you're going to start seeing U7 Frieza sideboarding minus Killy Zone, similar to the list that was played at Core TCG, which that deck was fantastic. If you haven't checked out the deck profile, do so on Super Player's YouTube channel. The list that Brian Samuel played was very, very clean. I love the ratios, the way he did his curve, his overrun cards. The deck was fantastic, so no wonder why he won the entire event. No surprise. But you're going to have to start taking those strategies and applying them. You need to be able to play something that's going to be able to punish Hercule for the type of game it plays, and at the same time, you're going to want to reduce the amount of cards that you give it on, across the course of a game. And then if you're playing something like Chain Zeno, if you're playing something like Cell Chain, you're really going to have to prioritize doing multiple of them. You're going to have to do one pre-awaken, you're going to have to do one post-awaken in order to be able to cut down on the card advantage and really force them into a game that's hard for them to win. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into tunes and one brew. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at tuning the Hercule deck. And so here we go. So this is the version of the list that I have right now on DBS decks, and I'm going to be testing, of course, moving forward. A lot of things we're going to be sticking with. So the principles of running your 4 yellow super combos and then running Bad Ring and Crusher Ball in the sideboard, as I suggested to, of course, our team over the weekend, which is why Pat and Jose were actually able to get better win percentage against the Universe 7 Frieza match, just because of the fact that you were able to have access to Crusher Ball, they battering the Crusher Ball, then you have the Mufuba live for the Awakened Power. So we're sticking with that strategy. The other thing that we're doing is we're adding in the Unyielding Defender E Supreme Kai. The reason why is because it's a barrier blocker that you have access to, and it's really easy to play because it only costs 2 blue, which is no problem for you in this deck since you're mostly base mono blue. And with that being said, having this card, this was done by Danny Wynn. I saw this in the main deck of Dylan Ashcraft's list. Again, hedging against the U7 Frieza matchup, which I think is what makes the Hercule deck so good, is that the slots are pretty flexible. So there's a lot that you can do to hedge, especially in your sideboard, for matchups that are bad. Additionally, in the sideboard, we have 2 minus Killy Zone. This is going to be for your mirror matches and also the decks that you expect to be playing Crusher Ball, because you want to be able to play your Beyond Darkness Demigra and have access to it that turn. In the mirror, we found that Crusher Ball was pretty devastating, so that's why we sided it and was able to win the mirror a lot of the time, because the fact that if you Crusher Ball the Demigra or the Secret Rare from this set, it's pretty devastating. So minus Killy Zone is something you're going to want going forward, because a lot of people are going to start to be on that tech. 2 Time Control Cronulla for the Shugesh matchup. All you really need is 2. You could even play 1 because you're going to be able to find it a lot of the time, but in general, pretty straightforward. And then 3 Mufuba. Again, this is something that's going to help you take care of Vegito, because your only other option for that is killing it with Mirror Creator Absorbed or just comboing over it with a leader attack or a big attack. And then also, of course, Universe 7 Frieza. This is a card that's used to stop the Awakened Power. Next thing, the main deck. There's not really many things that change. The only thing I do is I clean up the Overrun package. The ones that we had Fu Shrouded in Mystery and additionally a Scientist Fu. I think that those just come out. I think Mirror Creator Absorb is just better for you when you're trying to clear something huge off the board, or if you're just trying to go for game, because you have Hidden Power E Supreme Kai. And then Massing the Mysterious Warrior is just the stones in a lot of the matchups, whether if it's blue-yellow or if it's the mirror, because you're going to be able to clear off their announcers if they're on the board and send them to the warp. So very strong. And then, of course, you're still keeping your 3 Tesla Strength on Goku, 3 Tesla Strength Oob. At all costs, Vegeta goes down to 1. This card was good. Don't get me wrong, I think the card was great across the course of the weekend, but I don't think you ever really need more than 1 copy. You're never playing the second one, it's just there. But other than that, the list doesn't really change too much. You just clean up the overall package a bunch, and then of course your sideboard just you're really just focusing on the two matchups that you're worried about, which is the mirror, and then additionally, Universe 7 Frieza. So that is the tunes that I would make to Hercule going into this week, and I would test before going into your weekend, the test at your local shops and whatnot, and see if you can have some success. And then the brew, again, this is something that I worked on with the folks from past Discord, Chris Welch, Richard Zapp. This is Universe 7 Vegeta. This is basically a counter deck. The way that this deck is working is the fact that it's trying to do Chain Zeno multiple times per game, and that's just basically the goal of the deck. And the best part about Universe 7 Vegeta is since you have the ability to, number one, untap 2 on Awaken, and then essentially untap a third energy with your leader swing, he's actually the best Chain Zeno leader and one of the best tempo leaders in the game, even better than Soul Striker because of the way that he works with his energy, so you're able to get tons of value. A couple notable things in the deck is we're running 4 Intensifying Power Trunks and 4 Awakening Talent Pan. Major reason why is because you need to Awaken in order to make this leader impactful and more effective, because if you don't, or don't have a way to generate card advantage for yourself, you're just going to get buried by card advantage leaders, so you need to make sure that's not happening. Intensifying Power Trunks is also just very good in the Hercule matchup. Burst Attacks and Gohan, we're playing the full 4. Number 1, because it's going to act as Universe 7 energy. Number 2, if our hand size ever gets low, we can punish decks by having Burst Attacks on Gohan. And then Crit is also relevant, like I talked about before, against Hercule. We have 4 Chain Attack Trunks, 4 Foreseeing Hit. We have the 3 Zeno. The other neat blue card in the deck is Universe 7 Beerus. I really like this card against Hercule because you can force them to pitch cards out of their hand. And also, in general, it's easy to cast in this deck because you don't even need to have the 2 blue down because of Vegeta's Universe 7 trait. That's another bright side about playing Burst Attacks and Gohan as well, is that you don't need to have the energy in order to be able to do it. So you could play it with 2 blue and a red and be just fine. I also just like the fact that Universe 7 Vegeta can kind of just store your bombs down there. That was something that Chris Welch brought up when we were talking about the deck itself, is you can just put your bombs down in your energy and pick them up whenever you need them. So I thought that that was very powerful, very impactful. So in general, this deck plays very similar to like a lot of the blue-red mid-rangey strategies with, multiple super combos, multiple 10K combos, sensu beans, everything you need to basically just stay alive. And then, of course, you just have great mid-range threats with 4 Foreseeing Hits to help you close out the game, Burst Attack, Go-Ons, everything. And then your leader's fantastic because it allows you to always leave up an energy when you need to defend yourself. Sideboard, very similar strategy to thinking. 2 Mafuba is going to be our way to combat Universe 7 Frieza as well as Vegito. 3 Focus Mind Piccolo also has Barrier, is Universe 7, and can combat Universe 7 Frieza because it's going to be hard for them to deal with a barrier blocker when you have, when they're trying to go ahead and go for game. 2 Cronoa for Shigesh, 3 Haru for Cell Chain. We also have 3 Objection that can work for Cell Chain, and I also like Objection in the Universe 7 matchup because if you can get to 4 energy on turn 3 to Foreseeing Hit them, you can take away their combo before you then do a Chain 5, a turn 4 Chain Attack Trunks into Zeno. So basically, Foreseeing Hit, take their combo, then your next turn you can then do Chain Attack into Zeno and then reset, so they never get those cards back and they're having to do a full mulligan for all their cards. Then we have 2 Massey and the Mysterious Warrior, and that's just going to be for your yellow matchup, so you can kind of wipe the board, as well as against Announcer, also good against Hercule because they can clean up the board too. So in general, this is a deck I recommend you try, and also probably just take some of the theories that this deck tries to apply and use it in your own deck building as you move forward, and just kind of take just some of the general themes that you see that are going to be used against the main strategies like Hercule and Universe 7, and just apply them as you go forward. In general, though, thank you guys so much for all the support. I had an amazing weekend. Atlantic City was a ton of fun. Again, congrats to all those who earned their invites. Congrats to Jose Mercado, who, started off as just he was a patron at the time, and we play tested, and then we met at Richmond, and then we hit it off, and then now we're really good friends. So it was awesome being able to further that relationship even more, and then further all the rest of the friendships that I have in the course across the community. Eric, Gud One, I love you so much. My boo. Danny Wynn, so hype. He's performed really well again. Danny just continues to get better. Pat O'Neill got his invite. Eric Malone got his invite. It was just insane. The Hill twins were awesome. They're always a riot. Scotch still looks, like school picture day with his new haircut. Man, there's just so many memories across the course of the weekend. But anyways, thank you guys again so much for everything. Scrub fam is best fam. Bye!